Welcome, Mr. Shashidhar. We're very happy to have you on the what I thought was 13th, but the 14th episode of Talk in the Town. Mr. Shashidhar will share his valuable insight and experiences about a similar pioneering effort which engages communities in sustainable mobility planning in a very prominent neighborhood of HSR layout in Bangalore. And he is a passionate technologist and a sustainability startup founder. He has been a driving force in promoting sustainable mobility for citizens of Bangalore. He is the founder of HSR Cyclist Group, which is a volunteer non-profit group in Bangalore. And through this, he has spearheaded over 60 cycle day events in last 9 years and has been fostering a culture of cycling among residents. His commitment to sustainable mobility extends to his collaboration with another organization, HSR Citizens Forum, which is a non-profit organization also dedicated to sustainable living. And together they have made significant strides under Sustainable Mobility Accords program, which was initiated by Government of Karnataka. It's a pioneering initiative by the government which aims at promoting sustainable urban transport and improve last mile connectivity through community-driven solutions. And through this collaboration, they have introduced a feeder loop bus service in HSR layout. And it is around this specific initiative as well as the larger trend of citizen-led inputs in constructor policy making that we are hoping to revolve a conversation. So welcome again, Mr. Shashidhar. I hope that I introduced you adequately, but if there's something that you want to add about yourself, please feel free to add, and then we can start our questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarun. Thank you, Nimisha, for this wonderful opportunity to speak about the program that, how citizens actually came together to bring in a change in the locality. So I think it's a wonderful introduction. I would like to say that we are all change makers, and as together we can take this planet to the next level. And we are starting one drop at a time, starting with our locality in HSR. And we've been doing it for many years, along with HSR Cyclist Group and HSR Citizen Group. Thank you.
All right, great. So maybe to begin with, if we could set the context to this initiative, and if you can talk a little bit about the initiative as such in terms of what it is and how does it involve citizens. Maybe there can be two questions actually, but maybe if you talk about the initiative first, and then we get to the engagement part. Yeah.
Sure, great. So SUMA is a Sustainable Mobility Accord, and it was the first of its kind initiative in the country where why not citizens design a problem, identify problems and design a solution for that, because citizens understand their locality and layouts and surroundings much better. So with that context, the government of Karnataka floated an idea that why don't we involve citizens group to propose solutions for their particular locality. Not only that, why not they take this end to end as execution, right? And along with all the government organizations. So when they brought this idea to everyone, we at HSR Layout, we were working on cycling, pedestrianization, and many other initiatives, and also composting and waste segregation. So we thought, why not we apply for it, as a community? And having known our problems in the community, why don't we propose certain solutions that will change, right? Yes. So that's how it all started. When we applied, there were 18 to 19 other localities which also applied along with this. And we went through 3 rounds of interviews, selection process, pitching our ideas, what challenges we have seen and what we want to bring about a change, and to a panel of experts, including professors from IISc and all. And so they went about analyzing our ability to take this concept, conduct a detailed research and survey, and also propose a technically feasible solution that will work for us. And not only that, they also were looking for the team to handhold government officials to implement, plus do a survey post-implementation. So this is the overall cycle they were expecting, and we were selected as one of the 7 communities for that. So that's the starting of the journey of the SUMA project, how I would say.
Okay, great. I will come back to the selection part because I think that has a lot of pointers for understanding the the features or the factors that the government, the supply side might have in understanding that who would be a natural partner to help them in undertaking something which usually governments feel that is difficult to take citizen inputs for. So I'm assuming that they would have created the selection process in a way that they could identify that this is something that we need. A lot of times engaging with communities can be difficult, but if we pass these criteria, maybe this is something that we'll be able to do productively. But I want to first ask you a little bit about the process by which the engagement of community and the engagement of citizens was done. And it has been a long cycle. And you, as when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that it's already almost finishing 3 months now. I think it started in August, the feeder loop service.
Yes,
But
yes.
if you can talk about the process of what engagement looked like and what kind of activities was this engagement done, and then what were some of the outputs and outcomes that came out of it?
Sure. So as part of the project, we talked about the implementation part is also very important. So once we got the routes, everything finalized and approved, once the service started, the first thing we as a community went ahead is outreach programs, right? All the RWA. So the good news is if the localities have their own strong resident welfare association, that is the first step to reach out to and get communities engaged. So our goal was that everybody within the HSR layout and outside should be completely aware of the service. So that was the first and the foremost. And the second is the benefits of the service. How do we communicate this to everyone? Because there's a lot of programs going on, Shakti program, which is free for women. And the entire service actually is a 10 rupees ticket right now. And 20 stops within a locality of, 5 to 7 kilometers is a very unique service that people can hop on and hop off these buses. So people will observe the buses, but they would not know what is the service. So our goal was to engage colleges, students, communities, and as well as RWAs together and bring about this change in them to see now you can actually stop using your car for your small distance commutes because you have buses coming every 5 minutes.
Yes.
So that kind of an engagement we did. Initially, we started with like 10 to 12 engagements a month. In the last 3 months, we have almost close to 100 plus that we have done. So
last 3 months after the implementation has begun.
After the implementation. And so we have been very proud to say that we have seen the ridership increase 100% month on month increment. So that much carbon offset that we have created, as well as also a community that is using this very well. So.
And maybe if you can also give context to our audience about what the bus service looks like, maybe in terms of some of the numbers, the kilometers, the frequency, the routes, the stops. So maybe I think the overall area that it covers.
Okay, great. So HSR layout is a 7 sectors. It's built out of 7 sectors. So this bus covers close to 5 of those sectors. And this is a loop service. So the buses go in both directions. So people can, any direction they want to go to, they'll get a bus within the 5 minutes time frame. So that is the first thing. Second thing is these are 9-meter buses. They're not the large 12-meter one. In fact, we want to go to even smaller one, which is actually in the works that we are looking at, right? So the good news about these buses is they have a better turning radius. And even in roads which have got a little wider, they can easily traverse through that within the locality. So that was one more criteria. And third thing is, since it's hop on and hop off, the buses don't stop at every stop for a longer period of time because there's a next bus coming in, right? They stop for very few seconds, few minutes in each stop. And we have 18 stops and in one side, and then the other one is 21 stops that is available for people. So the overall, the loop of this is around 7 kilometers that it goes around, and it finishes the whole loop and comes back to the main Agara junction. The good point is there are 2 spots where there are regular buses coming in. So people can take these buses, go to Agara bus stop and take the buses to go to city or station, anywhere else. So it's a connecting, bus service also for that.
The service, okay. It's the Agara bus stop, I assume, is, I think I was looking on the map, it's on the outer ring road. So it has a wider connectivity. And the other thing that I wanted to ask was that sorry, you already talked about the fare, right? That it is a flat fare right now?
Yes. So for women, there's a program in Karnataka called Shakti program. Under that, it's free for all women. So any bus you take is free. So they come under that. they need to show their ID, like Aadhaar card or any other ID or a pass. And then it is also for bus passes are allowed on this for students, as well as for others, all others, it's a 10 rupees flat fee.
Okay.
Anywhere.
Okay. And do you also want to just give an overview of the kind of neighborhood and the layout it is in terms of the occupational structure, the various uses for which people, I was looking at the outcomes of the FGD and others. So it does give you economic makeup of the residential area, that what kind of trips people are making, for what reason people are traveling. So if you want to also just share a little bit about the layout itself.
That's good. Actually, when we did the focus group discussion, we actually engaged women, students, people who come into the sector for work, as well as also, physically challenged, blind, all those sectors we consider. So HSR as a hub has got people coming into the layout for work, a lot of them. And that is because this is also a startup hub. So the type of people you will find is a lot of working population in startups, restaurants, and other businesses. Along with that, there's a lot of schools and colleges. So we see the community which is using are all like people who would like to go to Agara and go out to work in other places, plus those who come from other places to Agara and they come inside this layout to work, right? It can be IT company people as well as also regular working population. So during the peak hours, we have noticed colleges and schools. All the children want to now use this feeder bus because they're very comfortable. They can go close to their house. They get down, they can walk back from the last, 100 meters or something like that. So that's the kind of mix we see right now with the bus usage.
Great. Do you also want to maybe share a little bit about the experience of the last 3 months? Because I understand that it took a long time for the entire planning process and for it to hit the ground. And now that the first 3 months are over, I assume that you've been going out and you are also, as you said, that there's 100% month-on-month increase. So if you want to just share some incidents or some observations from the users about their experiences, the kind of feedback that you're getting, which in a way shows the utility that it is providing to the citizens.
Sure, that's great. So we have done a lot of interviews too. I mean, we have some very interesting interviews. We collected data from people from blind school who never had an opportunity to go back to Agara. So now they're very happy to stop at a particular spot and then every day evening they can take it. So those are very inspiring stories we have got. But in general, what we have noticed is people were not aware initial months, but after 1 month of awareness campaigning that we did, once people came to know, it was organic growth. That 100% growth that we see is people automatically started taking these things. But there has been challenges too, because when a citizens group are involved, when we look at it, we compare this service to be 100% just like any other international place, right? Every sharp on 5 minutes on the dot. But challenges on the grounds are pretty big. We discussed this with drivers, conductors, how much traffic jams happen at different locations, what causes delays, and route changes, because when there's a turning radius, which is very tough, they have to take on-the-spot decisions. Traffic police has to come in immediately and then help them, So these things also impact some of the service because the passengers are waiting in another stop, right? So we have received inputs from people constantly, every single day, about what can be done to change these things, how we can improvise. So one of the major inputs we have received is we want to digitize the entire route map and make sure the passengers get to know where my bus is. So that work is actually BMTC has put together an app, but we want that to be perfect and facilitate for all the customers.
So what is the current mode of communication? Because in a lot of mobility related planning, I think the gap sometimes lies between the communication between the commuters and the people who are planning. And since it is such a unique initiative where representatives of citizens are involved from a very beginning stage, there must be some communication channels that are developed with, say, BMTC and ULT from the beginning. So how would you say, what are some of these existing channels which allow you to make it more dynamic in terms of like you get a feedback from people who are facing these issues in terms of say longer wait times or traffic jams, and then communicating it to the planners who have to say make adjustment to the routes or make adjustments to the other planning infrastructure. So if
Yeah.
you
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, that was a bigger challenge that we wanted to solve with the government entities. So the good thing is that we have a central nodal office like DALT. They have a constituted team, specific team for this SUMA, and also community engagement. Each community partners like what we have signed MOU with, they are a central node for that. And through them, we interface with all the other entities like BMTC and all. So every day we get to know the issues on the ground. We also get photographs, videos, recordings from citizens. So we have a lot of people who are regular users who share these things. And then that goes back to one level to DALT. And then DALT actually interacts with the depot managers. So every area has a depot manager, and then there's an associated person for this particular buses that's allocated for this. So daily basis, there's a report, there's a discussion that goes. But then we also have a periodic discussion wherein the depot manager also comes to the center, like Agara, and then they address together with the drivers and then share the concerns, what we are seeing on the ground. So some of them, as a citizens, we have to work together because it also involves the footpaths and street vendors. So we have to ensure everybody's ecosystem is considered here. So it's just not the bus running around, right? So we want an inclusive solution, and we always work with BMTC officials, DALT, and citizens group together.
Okay. So a depot manager would be mapped to say, like for the whole HSR layout, there is one depot manager? Like
it's actually Koramangala has a depot manager, but then the Koramangala depot actually considered certain areas, specific areas, and then the feeder. So there may be multiple depot managers inside Koramangala. So depending on the routes and everything else.
So for this feeder bus service, there is one which with whom you interact, and
exactly
that's quite incredible that so basically this requires a daily kind of engagement and processing the kind of inputs that come on a daily basis to be able to make it responsive to the changes that are needed. In the last 3 months, have you can you think of something which has gotten inputs directly from citizens and which has reflected into a policy level change or even a small change in terms of say deciding of routes or any other such changes which is different from the original plan, like which in a way can reflect that people gave their feedback, it was understood, it was based on the reality of traveling. And I know it's only 3 months, but if you can think of any such example right now.
Yeah, I think one of the things I can think about is that the concept of feeder itself was a new aspect within the community. I would say not just HSR, but assets in Karnataka, I would say. Because metro services are coming in, people think last mile is a feeder, like there's a one person going out and coming back, and how do we do that? So there's been a metro feeder concept that is being floated. But within a locality where you can connect multiple parts of the locality is very new. So with this particular concept, I think there is a policy level thought process to introduce similar thing for many other localities in Bangalore. Okay. So already a lot of localities are trying to draft this and then put a request how they can make connectivity for every citizen, how people can rely only on bus service rather than taking out their car. I think such changes are started to happen, and we have been invited for a lot of inputs for such forums too. So.
One thing that when we do a lot of our podcasts which are focused on smaller cities, we've noticed that in multiple smaller cities there is sometimes there are some defining features of people who come forward for engagement or who give feedback or who are more willing to be part of consultations. Bangalore has a very strong sense of civic engagement historically as well, but within a layout, within a mixed residential neighborhood, do you see any specific features to citizen engagement? What kind of people are more vocal, who are constantly engaging, who are coming not so frequently? Anything that which in a way defines the profile of people who are engaging, like you yourself, and I assume HSR Citizens Forum, they themselves are, they have taken on this mandate by themselves to be citizens' voice. But with whom you engage, if you have noticed some of these things?
Yeah, so there are a lot of such initiatives. I mean, I would say we are blessed to have wonderful people and groups who are working on multiple things. Maybe it's tree plantation, composting, plastic ban, and any other stuff, right? So I think citizens themselves who are really observant of the change that they want to bring in, we have noticed them to be very consistent. I think those are the people who drive it more number of years and also commit to many of these causes. So, and periodically, of course, commitments take them away from some of these things. But I think at the heart of it, they would like to support this, even remotely or whatever the approach that they can do. So we have observed that once certain changes are brought into the locality, such as shuttle service or composting and all, many others woke up and say, we want to also join.
Okay.
We also want to contribute, not only in this, but other areas, right? Okay. So, and many communities have come forward, like Rotary and others, who also want to join and provide support completely to cycle days, or be it a cycling infrastructure, park improvements, and all of these kinds of things, smaller initiatives. But I think as a locality, people want to take up a cause that they want to fight for and then contribute. So we have seen that, and the success rates of such changes which is brought in, right, makes the more number of volunteers to come on to such initiatives.
In smaller cities, a lot of times when we ask this question about management of volunteers, it's almost every time it's on WhatsApp, and it's a very informal way of doing it. I'm assuming it's similar for the layout, like the way you manage the volunteers. How do you keep this mass of people who are coming voluntarily and who are sharing, say, feedback or sharing photos and videos? How do you maintain a system of keeping this feedback over this duration? Like, what is or there are technological solutions now which allow you to do it more seamlessly?
Yeah, I think most, as we said, WhatsApp is the best approach that we also take. We have groups and subgroups of people, and we use that to communicate what changes we're bringing in. Secondly, the good thing about here is that some of the groups also have government officials as part of the group, elected representatives. So the good part is any change that we want to bring in also directly goes to the attention of everybody. In fact, some of the HSR Citizen Forum groups also have police officers, traffic wardens. So it is not that they don't know that some changes happen, right?
Yeah.
So that really helps in terms of bringing the community together.
So, but these WhatsApp groups, are they formed by citizens, or have they been formed by the government officials?
Oh, these are formed by the citizens itself.
Citizens, okay. So then basically a lot of these government officials and a lot of these people, they are there essentially because they are also citizens there and not because of a position of authority.
Yes, because I think the idea that we spoke to each one of the officials is also that they need not actually respond or anything, but at least the awareness that there is something that we are trying to bring or change provides inclusivity.
Yes,
right?
Of course.
Because as a concept that we want to include everybody and march ahead. Yes. So they are also aware that these are good things that's happening, and all the officials support our initiatives because this is for a non-profit cause. We are trying to change something that is good for the community. So when we do that, we have seen a positive results from every officials also.
Okay. I think that's something that we not come across or thought about, that if you have decision makers or people involved in the policy cycle also part of these groups, it's the other side of the engagement where you are keeping them informed. A lot of times it's the role that they feel that they have, which sometimes it's not done, but where they are informed, and the chances of them intervening in certain areas is also there. I'm assuming that you might have seen some examples of that where something was there, and if the police commissioner or somebody from the traffic police is part of the of the WhatsApp group, they might intervene to solve some of these issues.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why we have an open door policy, because everybody is aware of some of the good things that's happening. So they are wholeheartedly support, as well as also they also provide us inputs, what challenges we could face, and how do we together solve the problem. Example, recently we had a challenge with respect to certain intersections where bus turning is a challenge, right? No parking is a challenge, right? Cars actually park in the corner, so there's a traffic jam. So when we had a meeting with the Commissioner, Traffic Police and HSR Layout, they immediately tried to solve that. They actually invested in getting a paint done for parking only on certain times of the day, certain days of the week, and they changed certain patterns, so it facilitates citizens as well as also the service. So such inputs directly come from the officials for us.
So it's not something that I think which is very formalized or structured, but if I was to ask in terms of the way the process looks like for engagement, and if you were to define it by the meetings where the interface happens, so how would one say that the cyclist forum or the citizens forum, how many times in a month they meet as the facilitator of SUMA, how many times there is a regular citizen engagement with the common citizens, or how many times there is an engagement with say the decision makers from DULT, just to try to formalize or understand the kind of interaction that is required to keep this thing going. Like there is an interaction between people who are at the interface of policy making and the citizens, who represent both, like who represent citizens and who are helping the policymakers to make policy. Then they themselves interact to understand some of these issues, and then they also interact with citizens. So what is what I'm trying to understand is that how many more is the number of meetings and number of interactions required is more for citizens, or is it more for decision makers? Like, do you meet the decision makers more, or do you meet the citizens more?
I would say citizens, primarily, because in the last 3 months, what happened was when we did the citizen engagement programs with respect to all the events that we went to and all, a lot of inputs and a lot of good positive stuff, as well as also the negative stuff that was provided to us in terms of why this can be a challenging for HSR, what changes need to be done, and many of the inputs have to be taken into consideration because that is not thought through during the design phase, right? I mean, there may be challenges after 3 years of implementation of this. So I strongly recommend that we have to interact a lot with citizens, because citizens are driving force for a successful implementation, I would say. If they don't use a service that's launched, then there's no point, right? So citizens, one. And then the officials, I would say minimum 2 meetings a month would be minimum, I would say. It can be offline, it can be a phone conversation or a conference call, but we collaborate all the inputs we have received, and together we come up with a solution. And because I say use the word together, because no solution is like this has to happen only this way, right? Because it involves the community together and inputs from various segments, and doing one solution may impact the other party, right? So we have to come up with a balanced solution with the officials.
The other thing I want to ask is that how does the role of government, DULT, BMTC, is perceived and seen by citizens? So when you are interacting on behalf of the citizens of HSR Layout, you have the same role because you are also a citizen, and they have seen you, they understand a lot of the vocabulary, and a lot of the actions are easily comprehensible, are understood by citizens. But a lot of times the other side is not very clear. The role of the government, the kind of decisions that they are making, they are a little difficult to understand. So what I want to understand from the people's side, from the citizens' side, what do they see and perceive the role of the government institutions in driving this initiative?
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact, overall, there is a kind of people feel there's a wall, right? We don't know what is happening on the other side of the government because there's always a closed door meetings. Suddenly a solution is brought into force, right? But in this case, what we noticed was when we worked with DALT, all the communication and how we are actually progressing is also brought to awareness of the citizens during our interactions when we meet with them, right? So the services that we are bringing, the stops, we in fact did a complete survey of the solutions we are bringing and did an exhibition, 2-day exhibition for citizens. So, and say, you select which solution you prefer out of the 5 solutions we are trying to HSR layout. So that really brought a new concept for people to say, okay, now I have a say, you know. So some 300 to 400 people did a survey vote on the spot to say, I want project A, project B, project C, you know. And so that really is a change that we're trying to bring to say, you know, our voices are heard completely on the government side, right? But however, there is still a concept of direct approachability of the government officials. So hopefully we try to solve that because BMTC has also 1-800 number now, customer care number. They've been telling people, you have a problem in a stop, please call, and then somebody will take a note of that. But what actions have been taken is still not known to citizens. So we are trying to see how we can bridge that by working with DALT. So if there's new buses to be added or a new route to be added, a lot of people provide inputs for that. And when we work with DALT, we try to summarize that to say the overall process. Because one of the things I would say for citizens, they don't understand is any infrastructure these public entities want to bring, there's a lot of process involved.
Yes.
Interdepartmental discussions. If they want, somebody says, I want a bus stop right here. It looks very simple that you take a bus stand, some symbol and then put it there, but it's not true because the land belongs to BBMP. Then footpath has got tree, so that belongs to forest department. So every coordination has to happen.
Yes.
So government officials had to go back and do all of this process and solve it before they install a bus stand there.
Okay.
So citizens don't know all of this and they'll say, why is it 45 days? Still the stand is not showing up there, right? So we're trying to make people understand the intricacies of how the government works and how the MOUs between the department also. So if you have an MOU, it takes time for them to change the MOU.
Yes.
So changes that you request will not happen in the government entities because of this. And hopefully being transparent, they will have more confidence on the working culture and working aspects in the government.
Sure. No, in fact, I think the routes, the frequencies, and the fares, I think these are some of the things that directly impact citizens, and any changes to that probably are seen as something that would immediately alter the kind of issues that they are facing. So you very clearly highlighted that this is something that requires time. So what I wanted to ask you from, again, a citizen's perspective is that in this in the scenario of mobility planning, in something which is so intimately being designed for a neighborhood where people from the neighborhood are so closely involved, are there any low hanging fruits, or are there any easy wins that can be made by citizens by demanding for some of these things? So as you said, that getting a new bus stop might be a difficult, not a difficult, but might be a time-consuming process. But are there other things which can alleviate, and not necessarily restricted to the feeder loop bus service? I'm talking about the entire paradigm of, say, sustainable mobility, given that the SUMA is all-encompassing initiative. And you might be the right person to also answer, because you have been very for a long time, you've been engaged as a champion of the sustainable mobility as part of the Cyclist Forum also. In your opinion, or in your experience, have you seen certain things that if citizens go out and ask through sometimes the right channels, they are possible to do? Because a lot of times our asks are limited by our possibilities of seeing that they will get through.
So we have seen many things that can be done, right? I mean, along with the mobility that we have launched, examples could be that how do you address somebody coming to a bus stop, right? That's a very important aspect, because citizens have mentioned, I am very happy we have buses now, but how do I come there, right? So infrastructure as simple as footpaths, crossings, and also cycle parking at these stops, right? These are not a very high intensive infrastructures, but also can be done by private parties.
Okay.
Engaging a private sponsors for these kinds of things, right? Is a possibility that government and private sponsors together can engage, and citizens can give a recommendation, and these can be implemented very quickly. So the outcome of such inputs are going to be a continuous process, and these can be done without much delays, much infrastructure changes. So one part we have also requested is improving 17 intersections in HSR layout. So where walkability is important, crossing the streets is important. Bus stops are on the other side of the road. How do you ensure somebody can cross, so these 3D markings, if you bring in, those things will change. So that's also part of the SUMA that we are trying to talk to as an improvement of the layout. And as well as citizens also can bring in any CSR funds and promote these kinds of things. But I want to take a minute and explain one small concept citizens need to do. When we think about a solution, what most of the governments will look is not a paragraph about a solution or a challenge that we are facing. What they would look at it is, as a citizen, I need to spend time to understand the entire problem and surrounding issues around that. Like if I say, I want the entire footpath to be free for walking, okay? So I have to select a stretch of this footpath and analyze and take pictures, analyze all the obstructions there and what kind of challenges are there. Are there street vendors? Where do we want to move them? How do we allocate their livelihood also? So a solution has to be drawn by a citizens group as a holistic way and take that solution with the data points, right?
Yes.
And we have answers to all those things to the government. I think implementation would become much more simpler for them. And even approval process becomes very simple because they will include that in their DPR, bigger plan, and then implement right away as citizens request. So just by complaining or one-liner solution is a very big challenge I see for implementation.
Yeah. And in your experience, doing this proactively has been something that has yielded results, or you think that if there is some distance that is also covered, like for example, the SUMA, given that it was floated by the ULT, which showed an inclination from the government to very actively try to create such a space where informed citizens could collect such data and provide. In the past, did you have such experiences where when just doing it proactively without such a mandate that was created by the ULT also could have yielded results?
Good point. I think it is going to be tough because I think the challenge is how do you approach officials or which planning commission or which part of the overall infrastructure change scheme that you want to approach. It is not very, very clearly defined. So even if you want, there is a lot of citizen inputs we can throw in, but it just goes into some central database. So with the help of DALT, we could focus, we could target specifics, and then since they acted as a central node for us, it really helped us drive it through complete implementation.
But I still will take hope from what you were saying, because especially for smaller and mid-sized cities where the institutional overlap might not be so, I think, so complex as some of the larger cities like Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, where sometimes the overlap on the jurisdiction of land, on various other things. I think if still some proactive steps are taken, the chances of finding and hitting the right agency might still be there. So that's a really great point, I think, in terms of, I think if one can find the structure and try to define the problem in its entirety using various data points, I think the decision makers can be informed adequately to at least think about it, even if not act immediately. So
I think the tier 2, you touched upon a very good point. Tier 2, it is a little different because if you look at tier 2 like Mysore, right? Reaching out to an officer in Muda is a very possible thing, the overall plan. And then you can sit across and then talk the overall plan. And they will also introduce to other officials and a meeting that's going to happen very soon and where you can present. So in the smaller cities, tier 2 or tier 3, this is how the whole system works. So I think there it's very straightforward. Citizens should come forward, plan implementation or a whatever that they want to try, and then directly approach the officials with a group. That will help.
Correct. No, I think that was the objective that we wanted to, in a way, document this conversation about this possibility, this pathway that exists in larger cities, despite the complexities of the institutional overlaps. That there might be other challenges in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, but this definitely is not a big challenge in terms of creating straight lines. So I'm sure there are so many different things that I want to ask, but given that we have about 10 minutes, I do want to ask you about a more overall kind of message that you would want to share with similar agencies that probably want to do something of this sort in their neighborhoods. I don't know if you're already interacting with other RWAs in Bangalore itself. So maybe if you want to reflect on that what kind of learnings that they are seeking from you, what kind of inputs they are asking, because you've been involved for a long time, because that can still give a template for the kind of learnings that others can try to work upon.
Yeah, I think there are a few other communities who are trying to bring in a bus service. There's also, we are interacting with the bus service shuttle, which is trying to bring people from metro stations to all the offices in Outer Ring Road. So we had meetings with that ORCA. And we are also talking about a holistic way that the bus services can be expanded with multiple stations across the cities and tier 2 cities in Karnataka. So there's a discussion. So overall, our learnings is going to come out as a template. That's what we hope for. So our goal is that we put together a template, how we went about research, how we went about community engagement, plus also the post-implementation awareness sessions to improve people adopting the solution. So all of these things, we want to cover that. And very soon, we hope to bring about a template document that will help for every locality as well as tier 2 cities to go about doing such feeder services within their stuff. But my one message to everybody is there are going to be challenges in the implementation or research and all. But if we want a solution to happen, we have to give 100% end-to-end to it, and learn from all the projects that's been done, both in India or outside, and the challenges. And then we have to document together as citizens and take it further that this is going to happen. So that positivity, if we go, I think definitely most of the communities will come together, as well as government officials will support the initiatives and then implement the same.
Yes. I think one more thing that would be great to ask also is that, I don't know, within the SUMA program or as the citizen-led movement that you both are these organizations leading for HSR layout, do you have what are the future plans in terms of within HSR? Like, do you plan to expand other initiatives also? The feeder loop is already there, already going. Is there a timeline to this, or are there more integrated approach steps that you also plan to take, just to give, say, a horizon to what this could lead to?
Yeah, I think the one aspect we are also looking is improving the walkability.
Okay.
So across the layout, we want to support walkability for senior citizens, people with disabilities, blind. So inclusive walkability, that's what I want to call, right? And that will improve the livability index of HSR layout. That's what we are hoping for. And intersection improvements is also part of that. And speed control for vehicles, that is also as part of the overall infrastructure we want to do. Other part that is happening is also tree plantation. So HSR Citizen Forum is working closely with a lot of NGOs to bring in a lot more green cover for HSR. And there are other NGOs and groups like CTF working to bring out a mini forest near a lake. So all of these initiatives are going to be ecosystem building. And hopefully we create a map of such initiatives and good things and 22 parks. And then create a mobility plan where people can take buses and go to each of these things.
Oh, wow.
So, and promote them to say, like, explore this forest today. We will do a cycle round across all the parks. So such initiatives will promote people to get into sustainable mobility. So we have those plans in the works too.
Yes, and what you mentioned was that the compost plant is also the compost, that thing is also there, right? It's in HSR layout, the
Yes.
demonstration of various kinds of, that's also, I think, one of its kind initiative that I heard from you first time.
Yes, and in fact, we are the only layout where the lane composters are also there. So
Yes.
entire street, the wet waste is collected and composted in the end of the street in their own lane. So we are the only layout to have lane composters. We have also a demonstration of all the composting in Swachhagraha Kalika Kendra. That's done by HSR Citizen Forum. And there is also a campaign to 100% segregation achievement. So we are actually number one layout in Bangalore for segregation. So,
and this segregation, has this preceded the, like, is it a very old initiative that has been going on for a long time, or?
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been quite some time now. I think it's a lot of support from volunteers and HCF team members who have campaigns on voice recordings, and even all the BBMP officials now ensure that it's segregated, and wardens are there who actually search through the compost and they search through the waste and identify if somebody have mixed it. And they go and penalize them too.
Wow.
So this is probably the only, and all of this happens every single morning. So
amazing. That shows the spirit of the volunteers, and it's completely volunteer led, I'm assuming. So putting all of that time to ensure that the others also can have a sustainable future. And that's quite, I hope that when I come to Bangalore next, I can visit the layout and see all of this in action. This has been a very riveting and very insightful conversation, and we really like to thank you for your time and for sharing so candidly all of this with us. And I'm sure that our audience and various actors around different cities in India will find it most useful.
absolutely.
Thanks again, Shashidhar.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, Nagrika. And thank you for giving the opportunity to speak about our initiative. And HSR Citizen Forum and HSR Cyclists, we together work really hard to bring this to the citizens. And then we hope to share all our learnings with other communities and other cities that we plan to do in the future. Thank you.